Congress to pass a bill permanently banning and criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie.
Welcome back to America Decides. As President Trump targets transgender rights, we're seeing more LGBTQ plus representation at the ballot box. The Victory Fund tracked over 1,000 candidates who ran for local, state, or federal office in 2024. And that's up slightly from 2020. The president and CEO of the Victory Fund, Evan Lowe, joins us now. And he was actually just named to this position this week. So, Evan, great to see you. A lot to get to here, but congratulations on your first week in your office. So you've been working, your group has been working to have more representation in federal office, but also local office as well. And I'm wondering how you're approaching that mission.
Well, we are so privileged to have the opportunity to serve. We have close to 1,500 openly LGBT elected and appointed officials across the country, from governors, members of Congress, to townships and everywhere in between. Members of our LGBTQ plus community are ready to serve. And if anything proves that, now is a critical period of time in which we are being legislated out of existence. We refuse to stay silent. So the call to action is very clear, and people are ready to serve. And
have you seen more people come to you and say, I'm looking to run for office?
Yeah, it's been incredible. We at the Victory Fund fundamentally help to elect and appoint openly LGBT people in answering that call for service. Countless calls and correspondence from all across the country of LGBTQ candidates and individuals calling us, asking us, I am thinking about running for governor, United States Senate, school board, open space districts, and everywhere in between. And so what that means to me and our community is that we refuse to stay on the sidelines. We see the sense of urgency, and we must participate.
The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is the highest-ranking LGBTQ official in the nation's history. And I'm wondering how much that matters to you. Does that change your approach at all?
Well, I'm so glad that you recognize the fact that representation matters, and this is not about partisanship at all. The previous Transportation Secretary, and Pete Buttigieg, is also equally important. So we see history makers. We're hopeful that we can change hearts and minds. And, you know, there is this rhetoric and this narrative that LGBT people are seen as a liability, when in fact, what we talk about, as Secretary Bessent talks about, trade. Previous Secretary Pete Buttigieg talks about transportation. Mark Takano, Congressman, talks about Veterans Affairs. Sarah McBride, Congresswoman, talks about the price of eggs and lowering the cost. Mayor of San Diego, Todd Gloria, talks about affordable housing, and everywhere in between. And so when we think about individuals serving with distinction, they're running to better the lives of everyday Americans.
And are you working to recruit more Republicans?
Absolutely. We believe that service is important, and I'm hopeful that Secretary Bessent also can be a reflection that this is also can change hearts and minds. When we look at the history, this has traditionally been along various fault lines of party affiliation. But the fact of the matter is we recognize love is love, and we must respect human dignity, especially in this period of time.
And how would you rate how the Democratic Party is protesting what the Trump administration is doing when it comes to these issues?
Well, I think what is important to recognize is that regardless of party affiliation, we must speak out. When you see something, say something. And going back to that of our authentic lives as openly LGBT individuals, we do not have the luxury of staying silent. And that's why we lead by example, by demonstrating empathy and grace and protecting the most vulnerable in our communities. And that's why we speak out so loudly about protecting the most vulnerable and helping to ensure that we have equality and equity all across the board.
And you mentioned Congresswoman Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender woman member of Congress. Do you see her campaign as a roadmap for others, or, you know, perhaps potential candidates that you're talking to, do they see her campaign as a roadmap for them?
That is fundamentally the mission of the Victory Fund, to invest in everyday Americans within the LGBTQ community and to ensure that we have a pipeline and a pathway that the history makers, whether or not you are United States Senator Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, making sure that we lead with distinction and providing the blueprint, because the fact of the matter is it's also a very perilous time for members of the community to live authentic lives, because there may not be the type of protections that exist in their communities, in their states or in their local neighborhoods. And that's why, in spite of that, we encourage the opportunity for us as Victory Fund to invest and say, we will be with you every step of the way.
All right. Well, Evan Lowe, thank you so much. We will stay tuned. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.